Hey y'all, Bocephus here. It's my second video. I'm pretty excited. We got some new Starfield news today, so I was checking out their site. And they've got the official timeline up for Starfield. We're getting more and more updates as time is getting closer. The question and answer session on Discord's coming soon. I'm going to be looking out for that, seeing what I can find, what questions that they're going to pick out to answer, and post them up here. See what we got, analyze them. I'm getting pretty excited for Starfield. It's coming soon. Sci-fi games are my bread and butter. I love Mass Effect. I love XCOM. I loved, I used to play Star Wars: The Old Republic. Man, kind of got long in the tooth for me, but I used to love it one time. A lot of games like that, especially Fallout games, they're survival games, but they're still, to me, sci-fi. They're set in the future. But anyway, let's get to it. So they posted an official timeline, and we're going to go through it real quick, see what we think about it. The story so far. So what pops up first? The year 2050. Humans first arrive on Mars by 2100. Humans are living in space. Okay, in real timeline, that's not too far from here, from our current time. So maybe Todd Howard and Bethesda know something that we don't. Next is 2156. Humans arrive in Alpha Centauri, 4.37 light years away from Earth. But it just says something, that they arrived in Alpha Centauri. It says that they arrive on Mars, but it doesn't really give any kind of explanation of what happened to Earth, because nothing bad has to happen to the planet for people to actually colonize. It's human nature to explore. So what was happening to Earth during this time? Was there major upheaval? Was it going through some major global warming that couldn't be cured? Was Earth going through some wars, conflicts? What was going on Earth during that time? That isn't explained here. So now we bump up to 2159. 3 years later, the United Colonies are established. Okay. 2160, New Atlantis is founded and becomes the official capital city of the United Colonies in 2161. So the colonists are organizing, growing, reaching out. It says the capital city, so how many cities are actually on the same planet? How many cities are on other planets? Bethesda only talks about the major cities that were in the Starfield Direct, but they don't really say anything about any smaller cities or other planets that may have their own factions that haven't been introduced with smaller populations, smaller cities, or even any other larger cities. So they just said these are the major cities. That has yet to be seen. I mean, there could be cities all over the galaxy for all we know. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, that there would be more than just three cities or three major cities. I mean, to me, it makes sense that there are a lot of smaller cities, smaller colonies from both Freestar and United Colonies. So in 2167, Cheyenne is settled by Solomon Colt, who founds its first settlement, Aquila City. So I don't know about y'all, but that Western style kind of appeals to me. I do it a lot in my Fallout 4, cowboy hats, pistols, I love the 45-70 rifle. You know, trench coats, all that stuff. That kind of gameplay, that kind of look appeals to me. But we'll wait and see what happens and see what I'm going to do when I first set off on a new adventure in a new galaxy, or in a new system, should I say. And in 2188, Ko invites Volley to join Cheyenne in a new alliance, the Free Star Collective. The Free Star Collective is officially formed in 2189. So that's about 30 years after the United Colonies was established. So I wonder what went on there. Did Solomon Ko tire of the United Colonies? He didn't like what was going on there, and he'd take a group of people off to form another settlement somewhere, and decided to break away and form their own union, so to speak. I don't know. A lot of unknowns there. 2194, the United Colonies positions the star station called the Clinic in orbit around Depala in the Narian system. The unaffiliated peoples of the Narian system see this as a UC attempt to expand their borders and demand the UC remove the clinic. When the UC refuses, the people of Narian vote to join the Free Star Collective, who mobilized to protect the system in 2195. So it looks like the friction started years before between Free Star and the UC. 2194, and the United Colonies were expansionist, imperialist, I guess you could say. They just didn't care what their neighbors thought or what they wanted. If they wanted to place a station or take a planet that wasn't in their territory and claim it, then they were just going to do that, and they figured nobody could stop them. So in 2196, just a couple years later, in response to Free Star mobilization, the UC moves a fleet into the Narian system, and Free Star responds in kind. The Narian War begins. So they had a war before the Colony War. So there was already friction, bad blood between the Free Star and UC many years before. Alright, so in 2216, the Narian War drags on as public sentiment sours. Finally, the Treaty of Narian is signed by the UC and Free Star Collective in 2216, ending the conflict. The term settled systems is formalized in the treaty. So, let's see, that's 20 years. That war lasted 20 years. Boy, that's a long war to develop a lot of bad blood between Free Star and the UC, and allies on either side. 2221, the Free Star Rangers are founded as an elite, protective, and investigative force dedicated to serving all citizens of the Free Star Collective. So after that war, they saw a need to have special forces to do their bidding when there's actual peace, and do undercover type stuff, deep operative type stuff, spying. That's the way I see that. Let's see. 2275, Constellation is formed by Sebastian Banks. Original members include Chloe Bayo, accomplished physicist, Aja Mamasa, the youngest member, and Sebastian's protege, Darius Andrus, botanist and specialist in xenoflora, Bernadette Laurent, wealthy heiress and adventurer, Everardo Gill, former smuggler, and Kadri Toma, biologist and physician. The lodge is built in New Atlantis to serve the needs and people of Constellation for generations to come. So the Constellation built their headquarters in New Atlantis. Did they consider themselves part of the UC or a separate part of the UC? Why did they choose the UC? Why not choose the Freestar Collective? Who knows? Maybe the UC was funding them for a time and pulled funding for whatever reason. Sure, we'll find all that out after the game launches. Let's see, 2305, Barrett joins Constellation. So it seems like Barrett may be kind of an old dude. But that's all it says about Barrett, so there's doesn't seem like he's important at this point, but that's when he joined. Let's see, 2307, the Freestar Collective begins farming on the planet of Vesta in the Lunara system. Boy, some of these names get you a little tongue-tied. By 2308, the United Colonies claims that by establishing a colony in a fourth star system, the Freestar Collective has violated the Treaty of Narian. Diplomatic talks break down and the UC lays siege to Vesta, killing anyone who stayed behind or was brought in to defend it. The colony war officially begins. So in 2310, Constellation comes into possession of the first artifact and tucks it away in the Constellation archives. I find that interesting that Constellation is still off doing their exploring and finding artifacts while a war is raging. So it seems like they weren't combatants, like they didn't even care what was going on. So maybe that's when the UC decided to pull their funding, if they were funding them or whatever. Let's see, 2311, after several years of conflict, the colony war effectively comes to an end with the Battle of Cheyenne as a flotilla of civilian and military Freestar Collective ships takes down the major ships of the UC Navy using hit and run tactics. What that kind of says to me is that Freestar may have been losing the war on, in a toe-to-toe fight. Freestar Collective can't stand up to the UC. They don't have the ships, the manpower. They're just outgunned, and the UC was in Cheyenne about to end the war, and then the UC committed a large fleet for that purpose, and the civilians of the Freestar Collective joined forces with the military and beat them back. Caused so much damage that the UC couldn't carry on the war and finish off what they, finish them off. So the UC sued for peace because after that battle, they may have taken so many casualties that they just didn't have enough to continue to fight or to occupy anything. So, that's the way I interpret that. But that could be wrong. Let's see, 2315. The UC Vanguard is founded as part of a UC response to the Freestar Collective's use of civilian ships during the colony wars. The Vanguard is UC's own civilian navy, relying on civilians using their own ships, who pledged to protect the United Colonies and its interests. The ultimate reward for this service, citizenship in the United Colonies. Boy, that rings a bell. Starship Troopers. You know, you serve, and at the end of your term of service, you become a citizen, allowed to vote, and allowed to purchase property, and all that stuff. So, I think that's where they got their inspiration from. But I mean, it says that UC, you know, they formed a vanguard for their own private civilian navy. I think they probably did that to swell their numbers because of the amount of casualties they took in their regular forces trying to take out Cheyenne, the Free Star Collective. So they had to replenish their numbers somehow, and not everybody wanted to join a rigid military force. So now you got the Vanguard. But, you know, the Starfield Direct, it showed these guys saluting, standing at attention, and all that stuff. So maybe it's not such a loose group of civilians. Maybe they are a very organized quasi-military force. Alright, so 2319, Sarah Morgan becomes the youngest head of the UC Navigator Corps, though it's a short-lived position as the division is shut down in 2320. Cast adrift but still eager to put her training to good use, Morgan joins Constellation. So Constellation's already been going for a while by the time Sarah Morgan joins, and the artifact that was found was locked away somewhere. But Constellation, the UC is still allowing them to operate. I mean, they may consider them some kind of civilian agency now, or you know, it's just a theory. I mean, the UC may not have been funding Constellation at all, but they did, you know, headquarter in New Atlantis, so it just makes me think that the Constellation has close ties to the UC. 2321, Walter Stroud, co-owner of Stroud Eklund, one of the Settled Systems' premier starship manufacturers, joins Constellation, becomes a primary financial backer. So he owns a ship manufacturer. Maybe after he joins Constellation, you know, after a couple of missions, he might start offering up a little discount on ship parts or something. Or maybe he has an R&D department, and some things you find you can turn over to them, and they reverse engineer and make some kind of you know, spaceship module or weapons or something that you can fit on your ship. Maybe he'll send you out on some missions to discover stuff or to retrieve stuff that would help out in that process. Who knows? But looks like he's the primary financial backer. But that word primary means to me that there are other financial backers, but they don't provide as much credits and resources. Alright, so 2322, former Crimson Fleet pirate Vladimir Stahl joins Constellation. What's his story? Why did he leave Crimson Fleet? Because according to Starfield Direct, there's only one way out of Crimson Fleet. How do you escape? Did he change his identity? Or is there there's going to be some kind of system like you know, Fallout and Skyrim, where you can change your face, that sort of thing. So he's on the run, I think. And Constellation, by this time, according to the Starfield Direct, is a small organization. Many don't even know still exist anymore. So he's laying low. He's running from something. 2325, Sarah Morgan becomes acting chair of Constellation. Okay. 2326, 25, theologian Matteo Atari. Atari is the K silent, I don't know. I have a rough time with names. Joins the constellation. So they're setting up when all the people in the video, except for one, looks like, except for one, we still don't know who she is, but she was sitting at that table. She wasn't saying anything. She was silently observing. So we don't know who she is, what her part plays. Maybe she's one of the other investors for Constellation that helps provide resources or credits or who knows. I mean, we're going to find out on September 1st if you have early access, September 6th if you don't. We'll find out. Alright, so 2326, Barrett finds the original artifact in the Constellation archives and knows it must be special. So I wonder if that artifact spoke to Barrett, like they were saying in the Starfield Direct, it spoke to you. It says he found it, so when he joined Constellation, he had no idea. I don't think he had any idea that artifact even existed. He may have been digging around in some archives or an old warehouse or something and stumbled across it. That's what that kind of says to me. 2326, after months of correspondence with Sarah Morgan, graduate student and gifted scientist Noelle is invited to join Constellation. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was the dark-skinned gal. Noelle, I think is a dark-skinned gal. So in 2327, Freestar Ranger Sam Coe and his daughter Cora joined Constellation. So Sam Coe might be an old dude. He has a daughter old enough to join Constellation. Maybe she's in, her early or late teens, real young. 18, 19, 20. Could be that he got, had a little fun in his younger years, and, he's only in his 30s, mid 30s, and he's got a young daughter old enough to make her own decisions, or maybe she's not old enough to make her own decisions, and her mother's not around, and she has a minor job in Constellation as a teenager. I don't know. We'll see what happens when the game launches. Let's see, 2328. Andrea joins Constellation. I'm not sure which one that is. I'd have to rewatch the video, and I've already seen it 4 times, and I'm not sure who that is. But there ain't much on him when he joins. Alright, so 2328. Barrett convinces Constellation to purchase Star Station L868 and modify it to become a deep space scanner nicknamed the Eye. So I think that's the space station that we've all seen in the Starfield Direct, the trailers and all that. And maybe those artifacts emit some kind of signal, that they're specific signal they're looking for, and so they converted it to scan the systems for that signal. I don't know, but all those questions will be answered when the game launches. Anyway, I just find that very fascinating. I think it's really cool that they put out this timeline. It still leaves a lot of unanswered questions, but things are getting pieced together, timeline and all that stuff. And the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies actually had 2 conflicts, 2 wars. But the Colony Wars were the latest one. So see what happens after 2328. So 2330 is where we pick up, or yeah, 2330 is where we pick up, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've been real super excited about Starfield, and I know you're not supposed to put all your eggs in one basket, you know, for games, especially nowadays. The last 10 years, launches of games have just been crappy. I was there for the launch of Fallout 76. I played for a while. I think the highest I got up to was like level 120. I mean, I really tried, but a lot of their updates and things to me were just, I'm more of a, they were doing a lot of silly things. You know, I'm sure people were having fun with the playgrounds they were creating, but I'm not into those playground type updates. It's hard to put into words. I'm more of a immersion, serious story type player than, you know, those silly theme parks that they were coming out with, and I just lost all interest in it. Between all the bugs, I'd go to their events that they're happening, but I'm sitting there at level 120. My gear isn't as good as any of the others I get to these events, and there are people just, 5 times my level with full power armor, all the upgrades and stuff like that. I go to take aim at something and poof, it'd be dead before I can even pull my trigger. So I just wasn't having fun with it, and I doubt if I'd have fun with it if I tried it again. I hate to say that, it's sad, but there you have it. I was a fan in the beginning, and I tried to defend them in the beginning, but Fallout 76 had so many problems, and instead of making it the way they did, I don't see why they just didn't make it an MMO. But anyway, that's all I got for today. A little bit of Starfield news. Looking forward to it. I'm enjoying Baldur's Gate 3. I love the game. I found some mods, some quality of life mods that I'll probably talk about in my next video. And if you haven't heard of these mods yet, you'll be thankful that they're there, believe me. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. If you like the content, be sure and like, subscribe, leave comments down at the bottom, and thank you for joining in, and be good to each other. See you next video.